Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hello, Alina. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast today.
Thank you for inviting me, Mimi. It's
Of course.
honor to be here on your podcast.
The honor is all mine. We're going to talk a little bit about all of your work, and of course, thank you for the work you contributed to our "Make Us Visible: Florida Asian American Pacific Islander History" coloring book. We're really excited, and I want to jump into that. But first, I wanted to share with you that I just got back from Hong Kong, and yeah, Hong Kong, and I gained 5 pounds from eating so much dim sum and seafood at Lao Fao San. So I was really excited to talk to you because, of course, that's where all you know more about Hong Kong probably than I do. So definitely, not probably, but yeah, I wanted to share.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, I am glad you have a good time and you get a lot of good food there.
I tell everyone, and so I was there to visit my aunt and to see some family that came over from Shajiang. So they just take the train. It's very convenient now, and always happy to go to Lao Pao San to have seafood, and we have really connective there. I go there every time. It's I have roots there, and so I tell everyone though it's just nowhere in the world does dim sum or yum cha like Hong Kong. Like it reminds me every time I go that it's just there's nothing that can ever compare. I don't know if you feel the same, but that's definitely what I feel.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually went back to visit Hong Kong earlier this year, since the first time since the pandemic, and
Yeah.
it also changed quite a bit. Maybe
Yes.
like a few years you didn't go back, and then the pandemic changed the whole world. But yeah, it's. I'm glad I go. It was a wonderful experience for me too.
Yes, but I agree, and I do of course want to talk about your background and kind of how you grew up because a lot of the work I've been doing is very central around the Asian American experience and a lot of the artists, but a lot of us in terms of who's working on this. We're born here,
Yeah.
and so we have a specific connectivity with how we see our culture. And since you grew up, in Hong Kong, I would just kind of love to hear because I have friends there still, and we talk about school and how different school is in Hong Kong compared to the States. And but yeah, I love going back there. We've been traveling there, over the last, 20 plus years. And yes, it's definitely changed a lot. I would say that there's definitely changes like everywhere in the world, but I think
Right.
I'd love to hear your take on it. And of course, a little bit about your background.
Yeah, to me, Hong Kong changed because the Hong Kong I grew up is not the Hong Kong now. I'm the
Yeah.
last generation grow up under the British colonial Hong Kong. So
Right.
wherever I go home, I left is at 1997. I come to the United States.
Oh, okay. So
It's exactly to the dot.
to the day, yeah, it's
Today,
exact
and
year.
the reason I left is not, it's nothing to do with politics. It's just I happen to graduate from undergrad and I'm going to grad school. And I
Wow.
graduate America, I go to UCLA for my graduate school. So I come here for educational reasons, but then once I come here, I just stay here. After I graduate, I find a job. I build a life here.
Yeah.
Oh, but then the Hong Kong I know is the British colonial Hong Kong. So to me, that's an interesting identity also because I'm also immigrant to Hong Kong. It's like I born in China. My family they're Indonesian-Chinese, and
Mhm.
I moved to Hong Kong when I was a baby. And during that time, as a Chinese in Hong Kong, you kind of have a peculiar position
Yeah.
from a cultural perspective because we are Chinese. We all look Chinese, but it's governed by British. And we kind of grow up in that environment. So we nationality-wise, we are British, but we are not British. And so it's kind of very interesting time. So everyone are mandatory to learn British English, and you have Cantonese. And at home, my family, make me learn Mandarin because they feel like Mandarin is the universal Chinese language. You can go to talk to any Chinese people in Mandarin. You can talk to any Chinese in Cantonese. You can only speak Cantonese to Cantonese people.
Yes.
So they want to make sure I know the official language so I would not lose that roots.
Wow.
As a Chinese through language. So it's a very interesting time. And I didn't even, as a kid, you don't think about all this too much. After I come to America and I got a different identity. I'm Chinese American. And you got all this different layer. And then after I come here, I start get a little bit more awareness is like how Chinese and American, that relationship. And then looking back at my past, I always tell people, I'm not sure I have a clear national identity growing up because I'm a Chinese as a British. And then after that, I just moved to America. So I never be a Chinese as a Chinese national.
Right.
So it's weird. So for a while, I never really processed this childhood, not until even like recent year when Queen Elizabeth passed away. I have a very strong grief, and I'm like, that's really weird. Why am I? Because she's the image, she's our sovereign growing up.
Right.
She's the picture that put in every single classroom.
Yeah.
It's on our money.
Yes.
And she is a remarkable woman too. As a woman, I really admire her. So I was like talking to my friends that it's weird. I'm not British, but I feel very strong grief when she passed away. And then my friend is like, "Well, you are kind of." Yeah, you have yes or no because you grow as a British citizen on the British colony. That's the government, you know, that you grow up.
Right.
But Chinese, you also feel weird because you are not British, so you got that weird identity crisis. So she's like, just celebrate who you are. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm too cool. It's something I never really processed, all this weird nationality. And I'm not even so aware of all this nationality until I come here because of the visa problem. So when foreigner immigrate to America for the longest time, I'm like a student visa and I'm on the H-1B working visa. And then when I was on the working visa, you don't get fair treatment as resident or citizen. And you can't know that because if you are a foreign worker, so you can't expect you don't have certain right, and then there's also the greed of commercial greed. Like company know you are a foreign worker, so you can't really bargain or demand too much benefit because of the status. So for many years, over 15 years, I'm dealing with that. And it's kind of weird when other people talk about, wow, you have to be, are you voting? Are you involved in this political activities or that? It's like, I don't feel like I'm at the right place. Not that I don't care about all these social issues. I just feel like I don't have the right to even speak up because I don't have voting right. My voice doesn't matter because I'm a foreigner. And it's not just on the social political level, it's also just every day the company will tell you, well, you just be glad you get a job, you're not getting deported. And they literally say that out loud to you.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty bluntly, especially your annual performance review. If you try to ask, well, can I get a raise? Or just be grateful you got a job. So they can't use that as a news. So so for the longest time, I'm like, I don't feel that I have the right to even speak up. And it's weird. I feel the same even back when I was in Hong Kong because it's like I'm not sure I have the right to speak up because it's weird. So
it's an interesting dynamic. There's a lot to unpack there in what you just shared. My mind's like racing because, on one hand, I can completely empathize in a completely different way. Even though I was born in America, I am uniquely American. My father's born in China, but left, escaped to Hong Kong, right? Which was a better opportunity, which is not China, but now is China. And then my mom is Chinese looking, but she is born and raised in Jamaica. And so,
Oh,
so
wow.
there's this melting pot of different cultures that
Yes,
I
yes,
identify with. But growing
yes,
up as a child, you don't really think like, who am I? What
yes.
is this? I just eat this food that I get every day. It could be Jamaican food, it could be Chinese food, it could be, American food. And it's just interesting because what's in your home you adapt to, but then externally, there's so much
Yes.
that goes on. And so you sharing just that footing of trying to figure out your identity. I think so many of us, regardless of where we were born as, Asians, Asian Americans, etc., like it can be very conflictive. But I'm really fascinated actually to hear, not that I haven't heard immigrant stories that have such stressful and frustrating experiences attached to them, because it just sounds like I want to share my opinion in that I do think you have a voice. I do think you're entitled to vote. I do think you're entitled to your opinion, regardless of where you are, regardless of where you were born, and you being here contributing to our society. And it's frustrating to me that external factors in America have made you feel that way. And then also, of course, all of things that have led you up to being where you're at is contributors. But I can see and understand why you feel that way, right? After everything you just shared, even just meeting you for 10 minutes for the first time I've ever met you, I feel I can understand and empathize. But I do want to say I absolutely believe your voice is important, and I absolutely think you have a say here in this country. And it's kind of strange though, because you and I were just talking 10 minutes ago about Hong Kong and how different it is, even just post-pandemic,
Yes.
but post 1997, but more specifically, maybe the last 5 years, right?
Right.
It's
Yes. Yeah.
extraordinarily different. And we can see that. And you sharing about language, like Cantonese is what I heard growing up in my Kung Fu school, even though we teach a Northern Kung Fu style, because my father is from Shaojiang. We
Right.
teach our students Cantonese, which is,
Right.
like you said, kind of a dying language, and you can only speak it with certain people, but it's kind of what I'm used to. So it's amazing, first of all, that you are, multilingual. And I think it's incredible. It's something that I wish I had had more of growing up. I've tried to learn as I've gotten older, but yeah, I understand the need, or the confusion with identity, especially with you being British Hong Kong. And it's funny because I have, cousins and friends and people in your generation that are very British Hong Kong. And then I have people that I've met that, have just known Hong Kong in this last 20 years. And it's different
Yeah.
feeling. It's a
It's very
very different
different.
feeling.
Yes. Yes. It's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you coming here to the States, if you don't mind sharing, because it sounds like the immigrant experience was very much as a student and then getting employment, but always kind of feeling volatile, like those
Right.
rights could be taken away from you and that you were never really permanently here. Can you kind of share a little bit about that struggle? Because it's frustrating to hear, because we are supposed to be a country in this modern day and age that embraces immigrants and that welcomes them in to make a new life and to make a life. But I've heard so much about different stories from different ethnic groups and how difficult
Right.
it's been. And so for you, it sounds like your student visa was simpler, like not
Right.
problematic in terms of like you had a place, but kind of
Right.
that transition into your career seems like it was a little bit more challenging.
Yes, yeah. With the American working visa, especially the standard H-1B visa, the law is a company sponsor visa, so you are safe as long as you are with the company,
Right.
which is not a bad thing. But however, a lot of companies take advantage of that, so they use that uh, visa as a way to control that employee. So
Yes,
like,
yes.
well, we sponsor you this visa, so don't ask too much of other things. Like you want a raise, you want another position, you want to go to a different department or whatever. It's like they would use that as a bargaining chip on the end. It's like, well, you you have a job, just be grateful, because if there's a layoff is always tough for foreign worker, because a layoff means the company no longer sponsor your visa. So unless you find something within a really short window, I forgot, it's like 3 months or so. Otherwise, you are in danger of deportation right away.
Right.
Which is quite scary, especially if someone is in America for a long time. They're just working from company to company and they establish a life here.
Yeah.
So that become very unsettling, because you just never know. And we all know corporation, they change so much, and layoff is very common. It has nothing reflect a person's performance ability. Sometimes it's just pure economy decision.
Right.
So at the time it was a struggle, because for a young kid out of school, you have all this ambitious, I want to do all this cool stuff, and then you realize you hit the wall. It's like, oh, I can't do most of the cool stuff because I'm stuck under this law here. And also under that law, you can't make any money with other people if they're not your sponsor. That we consider illegal. So some people might do, if it's small change, a few $100 under the table, that's okay, but you can't really have like a big gate that will definitely be flat, and you'll be doing illegal activities in that case. So it's always challenging. And then obviously for the worker can apply for a green card to become a permanent resident. But the standard green card usually is either through marriage or through also company sponsor. So and either way, like marriage is it depends on fate. That is not something you can force to happen. It's a life.
Right.
And then there's the company, and then at the same time, company always use that as a bargaining chip on the end. Oh, you want this, so it's like a carrot in front of a donkey. You want this, you have to do XYZ extra work for us. Or don't ask for promotion for a while because we are paying for this thing for you. So it was really hard for a lot of foreign workers. And that process also is very long. And very often the company would try to intentionally just be slow down the whole green card process. They take forever to put together a small set of documents. Sometimes that could it's like I have 2 companies will try to get me a green card. It takes them like 4 or 5 years just for submitting an application. 4 or 5 years, that's around the time a company will have a layoff and you have to change job. So
the process is tedious.
It's tedious, so it's really draining for a lot of foreign workers. And I'm lucky, so eventually I actually decided to self-sponsor myself. When you slowly build up enough resume, and I got lucky, win a few awards within my professional field, and I'm qualified to self-sponsor myself and get a green card and then become a US citizen. And that's when I become a citizen. That's when, okay, now I can feel very comfortable to speak up and vote and do all this stuff. Because it's always that fear. When you don't have that security, you always feel like, well, if I say something wrong, I could get deported. If I do something wrong a little bit, I could get deported. And I've seen friends get deported or get restrained in their country myself. And they didn't even do something illegal. They go home for vacation and the company forgot to give them a letter or a stamp. And they were stuck for 6 months overseas. They can't get into the country, or they have to be deported for a few months just because missing a paper here or there. And they didn't even do anything wrong. It's just paperwork. So that's like a little insecurity always looming around all the foreign people.
That's frustrating that they, use it to hold power over you. And that's why I said I'm so frustrated because, especially our immigrant workforce, who we rely so heavily on in so many industries, are entitled to a voice. They are entitled to an opinion, but because of the pressure, I can see why, you'd be afraid. But I'm so glad. First of all, you said you were lucky, and I think it's more because you're hardworking and you do so well at at what you do that you got your accolades and you were able to self-sponsor. That is definitely not an easy road. And so, congratulations and much respect to how inspiring that is for so many people. But that's incredible. I would love to talk a little bit about, your art and your art process now, because we are so grateful. One of the things I do is I'm a Kung Fu teacher, as you know, and because of that, I've become quite an advocate in this Asian American History project. And we got our bill passed here in Florida for kids to learn Asian American history. And I actually think you might know more about American history than I do, because anyone who's had to take the citizen test has to learn so much that I don't remember. So I actually feel like you might actually be more knowledgeable, even though I was educated here. But growing up, I didn't, learn about, Asian American history figures. I didn't learn a lot about that journey. And I'm curious, through either the citizen test or just kind of being on the West Coast, like what would you say your knowledge is on Asian American history? Or is this something that is kind of a little bit foreign?
To be honest, the citizens test does not cover any people of color information
Right. There it
or
is.
of
That's what
color
I wanted to, I
history in
wanted you to tell
America.
me. Yeah,
It
that's
did not
frustrating.
cover that. It's just your standard founding fathers, what year. So it's your standard American textbook.
Mm,
There is no representation for POC.
right.
So
Which mirrors in our education system. So this makes sense. So the citizen test also needs to be revamped, but one thing at a time.
Yeah, so for Asian American, it's interesting because I think I become a lot more aware when I start get into publishing. Because that's when I slowly also discover my voice, or discover what voice I could represent. Because when I start trying to write story for kids and try to learn how to be a children's book author and illustrator, and I discover, okay, everyone say author usually start out writing story that you're familiar with. And for the longest time, I'm so afraid to express my voice because I don't feel I'm American to express my voice.
Yeah.
And then when I have the opportunity to do that, I'm like, okay, so what would my voice be? That's why I start asking myself and questioning that. And I read a lot of books, like children's book, and there's an Asian American story books, and also other books that a wide range of different books. And I discover when I'm reading all the books is I did not grow up in America, so I cannot write a children's book story about a kid, even as an Asian American growing up in America, because I do not have that experience. I come here as an adult. So that's when I'm start to really think how I can contribute to the Asian American narrative. It took me a while. So I end up I feel like, oh, maybe I can share my experience just had as the Asian story, different kind of storytelling. That's when I start writing my graphic novel, Marshmallow and Jordan, that is story take place in Indonesia, inspired by my Chinese Indonesian heritage, and then mythology with Hindu and such. And then around that time is also during the last Trump administration, with all the immigrants hate and all the issues, I get really upset. And then I pitch just a non-fiction picture book idea about first generation immigrant story, contemporary first generation immigrant story in America. And the title is called In the Spirit of a Dream. That one is a collaborative book project. I don't feel that I can write that book because I don't feel I have enough American social education to write that. So I collaborate with an author, Aida, Somerset, and she write the book. I do the illustration. Some of the illustrations, I develop the concept. We invite many illustrators. They're all people of color, represent different culture to illustrate each story. So when I'm writing that book, I just slowly discover first generation immigrant has a different kind of voice as other immigrants descent who grow up here, and the voice also are as important. And also the more I start meeting other author and creator from all the different culture, I also realize there is a thirst in, even with people grow up here, other people of color grow up here or born here, they also would like to know more about the culture, that the roots, where they come from. And that area of story is still a little bit on the slim size. There's not too much of the origin story of all this, from all this culture that reflect different people's social and cultural roots. So I'm like, well, I'm a first generation immigrant. I can write story about what as a second generation or beyond experience like, but I can tell story about what the origin of certain culture, because I'm from there. So that's what I'm trying to explore right now. And to me, it's still a journey that I'm still discovering, because I'm trying to figure out how I can translate an experience that is quite different even within the Asian American community, and I make it approachable and also entertaining for Asian American, as well as also a larger audience out there who may not be familiar with Asian American story and narrative.
Yeah.
So.
No, I was so excited as I took this journey on to explore Asian American artists, because we really wanted to have a connectivity with our artists to kind of just showcase that work, but also so kids of Asian American descent, but also all kids could kind of see different voices and see different art. And when I discovered your page and your art, and I was so excited, because I was like, I wish I had a Double Happiness book and a Nan Monster book and all these fun books that kind of resonate with me, because I didn't, I had my dad telling me stories, right? But there wasn't really kids books that were simple. I've got back here, which I admit I haven't read, Outlaws of the Marsh and The Water Margin and like all these, Journey to the West and, romance, the romance, the kingdoms, right? And I'm just like, you can't read those. They're translated from like, thousands of pages, and it's so dense. And now we have like little Monkey King storybooks, right? Like everybody kind of knows maybe that character from, but one of my favorites is over here. You can see my Usagi Yojimbo, which stands Sakai, because I learned so much about Japanese culture, and I was like, we need a Usagi of Chinese culture so I can learn all the stories and stuff. So when I saw a lot of these books that you had, I thought they were fantastic, because I think especially the younger students need to be able to see things that are entertaining, but beautiful to see, but easy to read and understand, because a lot of these, folk tales and things are not really readable, right? Like you can't actually read them to kids for them to get the stories. So I was so excited to find this. And that way I can recommend a lot of our students in Kung Fu class, they need to have more opportunity to see different books. And I'm really excited about your In the Spirit of a Dream, of the stories of the American immigrants of color, because I think that is those stories really need to be told. So I'm so excited that we were able to connect, and this project has been amazing in that way, that I get to meet all the coolest people. So very exciting.
Yeah, for me, it's a great honor to meet other Asian American creator, advocate, and just to be connected with the community. Because what's interesting, I went to UCLA. I major in films, so I'm an animation film major. My class is pretty mixed race. It has many different cultural, but back in the days, like in Y2K time, like the early 2000, even within the animation movie industry, there's not many Asian artists. That's a little bit, but not as much. It's not as much as now. And
Right.
so for the very long time in my career is that even working on project, you don't really have any animation project. And that's just very limited movie or animation project that reflect Asian American culture. So yeah, so it's something I forgot what it is. And I know you work on Mulan, so when Mulan come out, I'm so excited. Oh, there's a Chinese story.
Yeah.
Need to watch that movie when it's out. I forgot. It's that at the time I'm in school, so the school has screening and all that. I literally like just go into the screen, watch the movie 20 times.
Oh,
I love it so much, and the kung fu is amazing. So I'm like,
yeah. Thank
yeah.
you. I'm very proud. I have to say, I'm very proud of that. And it's been amazing to be immortalized as the character and to be alongside all the other, Ming Na and Lee and that, have brought that character to life. And it was such a collaboration. But yes, the kung fu, thank you for that, is because that was all us. Like me and my cousin, we did all the kung fu and choreographed and did all the action sequences. It was so much fun. And I was much younger then, but yes, it was again amazing to be able to see a lead character in that way, and especially a female one, right? Like
Exactly. And
to go
also
even
a
deeper.
character that doesn't stereotype in a negative way, which
Yes.
even around that time, sometimes you see an Asian character on film is like,
Yes.
oh, it's not quite
Cringeworthy.
right. Yeah. So
Yes.
when mine come out, I'm like, that is a pretty good. I mean, the story there's a little bit well Americanized a little bit,
Of course. Of course.
but overall, it's very respectable. It is
Yeah.
very it feel genuine, it feel authentic, and
Yeah.
or the fight sequence and the character is like the depiction is actually pretty. It's very respectable. That's not nothing. It's like oh my god.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
So,
I mean, and the thing is, when you look back, of course, there are items now, like if it had been done
mhm,
in 2023 versus 99
right,
or 98, it would be a different feeling, right? I think there would
right,
be changes made, voice choices made too. That would have been different. But like I think that they did get it right. It was
yeah,
really great and meaningful to me, especially that they didn't take her and make her the damsel in distress and that have like Shang help her. Like she helped everybody else. She saved the day. She was not, you know, in need of saving. Whereas Disney
right,
princesses in general have always had a male counterpart to come in and save the day. You kiss the princess to wake her up, or you rescue her and all this stuff. And so I was so thrilled that for like now they have more, but for the
right,
first Disney princess to
exactly.
be showcased in that way was super empowering, and I was really proud to be a part of that, and still am, right? And it's
Yeah,
carried me through to a lot of things that people are always really excited about that part of the story, part of my story. And so yeah, I love that that resonated with you. And at that time, you were in the States, right? When it came out, because
yeah.
you'd
I'm
already
in the
left in
state.
'97.
Yeah, I'm in grad school, and at the
Yeah.
time, it's like also a few of the representation as an Asian story representation because for a student training to be a filmmaker because
Yeah.
the Asian I really don't see I can it's like my image is that you can work for other people's story, but no one is going to tell your story at the
Yeah.
time. And now there's a lot more genre, but back in the days, it's like if you're Asian, don't even you just get lucky, you get a job in the movie industry.
Yes.
They don't
Yes. I'm
expect people
aware.
to tell your Asian story. No one's going to watch it.
Yeah, no one's gonna watch it. That's the thing. You're not
Yeah,
marketable. I mean, I was in LA, as to pursue acting like 99, 2000, 2001. Not the best time, right? It was a very different time than now. And I'm so excited that we finally are seeing some changes, but I feel exactly what you're saying. It resonates with me
yeah,
greatly because as storytellers as well as you're a filmmaker,
right,
it's really a challenge too, because it's like, what voice do you have? Nobody feels like you don't feel validated until you have to prove yourself, right? Whereas other
right,
filmmakers, just because like you said, people of color, there's definitively kind of that uphill battle that's always
right.
there. But yeah, I'm very excited about all of the books that you have on that I've seen on the website, and just being able to kind of share and tell those stories is really, really awesome and meaningful. And so this leads me into just thanking you now, because I'm so excited about the creator lineup that ended up saying yes to me when I asked, would you participate in this project? And it's very Florida based. Like, we do have a national presence. We do have chapters that have opened actually because Florida passed their law. They said, wow, Florida can do this, we have to do this too, because there's no excuse now, right? Because Florida has so many challenges. And so I think we lead the way for a lot of reasons because of that. And it's so meaningful that artists of your caliber have agreed to participate in such a meaningful way to our project. So thank you so much. And your shark page, I love it so, so much. My listeners who hear my podcast all the time are going to roll their eyes because they're going to say, here she goes now. I have this crazy fear and obsession with sharks. So the fact that you did a shark page of all sharks is just like really exciting for me, because I try to do exposure therapy where I'm just like constantly taking in shark information because I'm so scared of them, but I love
Oh,
them. Yeah.
yeah.
I loved your shark page. And it was perfect, from the reefs to all the
Oh.
different ones. And so thank you so much for being a part of this. I'd love for you to share, because I know I gave you a few things to pick from, and you were interested in drawing that. I'd love for you to share a little about the inspiration behind how you drew it and what your thoughts were, and just a little bit about being a part of the project.
Oh, okay. First, I know you have a few sub-theme to choose. I choose shark because I'm also an environmental advocate. I really care about our planet, so I really feel like the animal need to have voice.
Yeah.
And I know shark is one of those poor animal, always got negative press from everybody. They're always the bad guys
Yeah,
in
we got to
movies.
thank
That's
Jaws for that.
so
I
sad.
mean,
Too. When I was in school, I actually volunteered at one of those local Santa Monica aquarium for a while, and
oh, okay.
you can teach people to pet baby shark, and they're really smooth, they're really cute to pet, and like many people before I volunteered at the aquarium, I am a little bit afraid of shark, but then when you get to meet them in person, and then you can pet them, and they're actually just like a puppy, and then I can teach kids. You can just put your hand in the water, and then after the kids pet them, they're so happy. So yeah, no, they're just like sea puppy.
Yeah. You're not the first person that's told me they're puppies. And I have to say, I I do have an unhealthy fear, and it's because of from when I was young, right? But I will say I went to the Galapagos, and they have a very high regard and respect for wildlife and animal and all things. And I'm with you. I think we need to do more for our climate. We need to do more for our earth. And but when we went, you can see whatever animal, you just don't know. You're in nature, right? And I will
Right.
say I saw a reef shark, and I was swimming after it to see more of it. And I wasn't swimming away from it. So I thought that was a good sign that ultimately the shark was fine. It didn't try to eat me. And I also wanted to be kind of more present in its presence, just in awe of it. But
Right.
also, I think it was just adrenaline and everything. But the reason I have a fear is I actually believe I should be, right? Like, it's their territory. We're
Right.
in their home. We're
Right.
invading their home. And so we don't really have the right to be there. Like, it's their
Right.
area. And so I feel like the intruder, because I am. And so I think it's more like I know I'm the intruder, so I don't have the right to be there. And that's why I'm so scared. But I did have a very nice shark encounter. So I don't know if I would say they're puppies, but
Well, I guess it's a different species too. It's like not all shark species are dangerous. There's some
right.
are
It's
just
not like I'm swimming with a
gentle.
great white.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I
which
guess that's
which that one lady online does, but she's the exception of the rule.
yeah. So I just feel that it's like dog. Dog has many different kinds. Some
True,
have
true.
to be a little bit careful when you approach. They're slightly
Right.
protective by nature or aggressive. But the other dog is like Chihuahua or little Maltese and Poodle. That's animal, and shark is the same. They have a wide range. They have one with a big teeth, and those are more territorial. You should give them more respect and stay in
Yes.
it. Some small one, and some they don't even really eat meat. They can't just swim. It's just so many different kinds. So
This is true.
funny.
This is true. We can't say they're all Jaws, right? They're not
Yeah.
all Jaws. And
Hello.
I mean, and that's why I was so fascinated by Eugenie Clark, who's known as the Shark Lady, right? And so to kind of learn about her, she was the only student of Japanese descent in her school growing up, and for her to have this zoology background and to kind of bring all of this amazing shark knowledge to us, I thought was just fascinating because it was an Asian American, and I would never have known that ever. Had I not worked in this coloring book, had I not kind of gotten involved in learning more about Asian American history. And I mean, that was one of the things, like, I think growing up, had maybe I seen that, I might have had a different connectivity. Maybe I would have been a biologist. No, probably not ever. I didn't do well enough in science, but I'm saying, this representation for youth is so important, right? Because if we see ourselves in different roles, not just as the stereotypical thing, and I get it. I am actually a kung fu teacher, and it's very stereotypical for a Chinese person to be a kung fu teacher. But being able to see ourselves in all these different careers and knowing that Asian Americans were so important in the foundation of things like, our civic contribution, but also in science, right? It's inspiring for kids. So I do love that you picked the sharks, because your sharks, although some of them still look like they would bite you, they are really cute in the pictures. That you did a good job. I don't know if they would call them puppies, but they're gorgeous, and I love the sharks on your page. So thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. I have a lot of fun making that page.
Oh, I so glad. How long does something like that take you? Because I always look at artists and I think, wow, I can't draw a stick figure. So how long does it take to put together a piece like this?
I think that one took me about a day and a half. I
Okay.
spent a little bit time going through all the shack research that you sent me. I want to
Yes.
make sure the shack look right. And I also do more Google digging to figure out what kind of shack is what, make sure I draw them right.
Yes.
Take me a little bit time. And then it took me a little bit more time to figure out all the composition, because we want to fit a few different shack in one page. And I want to make sure we can fit enough so they're not so small it's hard for kids to color, but at the same time enough that look like it's populated ocean, so
Yes.
it's fun.
It was perfect.
So it is. I have a lot of fun, and then the rest of the time is just do the cleanup and make them into a coloring page with line art for the kids.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that was it. I know that that's another challenge, because you are so vivid with your watercolors and the painting and how you make things come to life. I'm like, I need black and white line coloring. It's just got to be so the kids can do the coloring. And so I know sometimes that's like harder of an ask, because you have in your head, I bet do you see it in color? And then just say, okay, I'm just going to do the outlines. Like when you're as a visual artist, like I'm curious, because like when I choreograph like a show, I can see everything. Like it's very visual. I know what I want people to wear. And so when you see something like this, or when you're just drawing art, I'm just going to do the line art. Do you see it in color?
Actually, I like line art myself too. And
Okay.
whenever I do line art, I feel like it's like calligraphy. And I don't really do
Oh,
calligraphy often this day. So it's like one of
oh,
my favorite. Like people always ask me, how do I learn line art? I actually learned line art I learned how to draw lines from Chinese calligraphy.
that
So
makes so much sense. I mean, because let's just face it, the number one popular tattoo, Chinese writing, right? Or Japanese writing, like calligraphy, because it's so beautiful. It is art. And I think it's a dying art, right? Because now there's like simplified, and then you just type it in and it's very different. And you can share about it, because I can write my name 1 to 10. I got like, koi ta, right? Like that's it. I don't have much, but it's a very specific order. There's a very specific rhythm to it. Can you kind of share a little about that? Because I think calligraphy is so fascinating.
to me, it's like my mom forced me to learn ballet when I was a little kid, because she felt that you need to have a sport. But if I can turn back the time, I will ask my mom to put me in a Kung Fu class because I'm not a ballet girl. I'm not a paint tutor
It's
girl.
not too late, Alina. It's not too late. I will teach you.
So here's the thing. I also like drawing, so I learned Chinese painting as a kid. But when I learned calligraphy, to me, that feel a lot like Kung Fu.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because with calligraphy, at least with Chinese calligraphy, when you write, so most of the time when you learn Chinese calligraphy, you're not coming up with your own poem. You just like, you have a poem by some master calligraphy writer, and then you just try to copy their writing. But the way my teacher teach me is once you understand the poem, when you write, you try to understand the spirit of the poem, and then you try to, the writing process is actually not how you move your hand, it's how you control your breathing.
Oh.
Breathing and how to do a steady hand. It's all is through like breathing and control how you hold your breath and release your breath and how fast you release your breath. In a way, it's almost like qigong.
Yeah.
It's more like qigong than just writing. So every time I do just even a line, I sweat. Literally, you get hot from the inside and you start getting sweaty. Chinese calligraphy is, to me, is like Kung Fu, except it's more internal. Like Kung Fu,
like Tai Chi.
Release the energy out.
Mm.
With calligraphy, you just release your energy down to a point, to a pen, and that's how you get the line. So you got all the thick and thin line. That's how you use your chi to control light and dark. That's why when if you in like a lot of like Kung Fu like period movie or period story, they say you can tell a person's personality and their 思维, like Kung Fu 思维, from their writing, because you don't write with your hand, you write with your chi.
Wow.
It's a lot like Kung Fu. So to me, that's why I like calligraphy so much, because I can't, to be honest, I'm not even sure I have the talent to do Kung Fu. I'm barely able to handle gymnastics to do a tumble. But
Kung Fu is about the hard work. That's a talent. So you can do it because you are clearly a hard worker.
So to me, it's like this feels like the spirit of Kung Fu, but not punching someone and break an arm and a leg.
No, but you know what? You have captured the essence of Kung Fu, right? Which is discipline and focus and control. Like at our Kung Fu school, which by the way, please come and visit one day. I invite you to Orlando. I know Florida can be a scary place for a lot of people, but I promise in Orlando, especially in the Wallam Temple, it's our own city. Like we have our own world. And but on our altar, people are always really fascinated. And I wish I had a copy of something to show you right now, but they're always really fascinated with our fire symbol because we have it and it's upside down. And people always say, hey, Chinese people always say, hey, your fire sign's upside down on your altar. And I'm like, we know. It's because in my dad's village of Shaojing, it kind of originated there. We take the fire sign, and when you turn it upside down, it symbolizes to distinguish your fire, which is control. So 佛 right? So it's like you turn the fire upside down. And that principle is really like central for us as martial artists, right? It's that control and that focus and showing your patience, right? And so to do calligraphy are all those things. So we also say, when you do Kung Fu, it's hard work, right? It's that principle. And that's not just kicking and punching. That's anything you're doing. So you are already a Kung Fu practitioner. Your external expression is in the brush, but that is, it sounds like you're a Sifu already in that. Like, it sounds like you've mastered this. You have the principle. That's amazing.
I'm not a master.
You just blew my mind.
Yeah, to me, that's like the closest to Kung Fu I can get.
Yes, no, it's very close. It's very close. It's very close. I love that because, I've always heard, you got to go left to right and then top to bottom. And people have talked about the order, but I don't know that I've ever heard it expressed in this way. So thank you for that. You just blew my mind. My martial arts listeners are going to love this part of the conversation, by the way. They're going to love it because
Oh,
everyone is fascinated with Chinese calligraphy. And, I asked my father to write some art in my house because I wanted it in his hand. And he's
right.
very embarrassed by his writing because he only went to grade 2, or what's equivalent to grade 2, only 2 years of school. And so he says he doesn't feel comfortable. And then he taught himself the rest. So he's expressed to me how important it is you can't do that if you're not a master or if you're not a calligrapher, if you're not studied. He says it's a discipline, it's an art, and to do it, he feels like he's, imposter, like, and it's not right, because he is somebody who believes like you must master something at a level. So he wouldn't do it. I made him do it, by the way, and he didn't like it at all, but I want it because it's personal. But I understand now more so why he says that, because it is such a discipline, and to like, make something for someone else is like showing your calligraphy, is like showing off your, your art, your style, right? And so, yeah.
Have you seen people practice calligraphy with giant, like,
Yes.
full-size brush on?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, when they do that, it's like a dance of a kung fu more than a
Yes.
calligraphy, because
It's true.
just imagine the strength to draw, like, write those giant water
Yeah.
calligraphy on the
Yes.
floor.
We have one at the school, which someone who was a master of that did. And it was, and it was like really quick. And it was, like you said, less about what's remaining in the art, but more about the movement and how they kind of did it. So yeah, I that is so fascinating. I love that. I love that. That is amazing. So I love that your sharks are basically your calligraphy of your puppies, your calligraphy puppies. And I see that you have a puppy, right?
Mhm.
So you clearly have a affection for animals and puppies, and so the sharks were like the perfect fit for you. So yeah, no, thank you so much. Like, it is so meaningful to have this representation and to have like female artists on board as well, because I have to say, most of my friends, I didn't have as many female artists in my, circle, and now I have so many more. So this project has just been, all around amazing, just even for me. So let alone all the students that are going to benefit from it. So thank you so much for agreeing, because I know it takes time and energy, and you have so many other deadlines and things to do. So we were really, really appreciative that you were part of this.
Oh, I am just really honored you invited me, and I got to talk to my hero, Mulan. Oh, no, it's gonna, no way. How did you even find me? Oh.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. No, this is so perfect. This is so perfect. We're big fans of one another. So that's absolutely amazing. I would love to hear about projects you want our listeners to read. I'm going to list all of your gorgeous books, Marshmallow and Jordan and The Spirit of a Dream, all those. But if there's things you're working on that you want our listeners to tune in for, I know you have a newsletter, which I get now. So, but I'd love for you to share anything that, listeners and viewers can kind of connect with you, especially those with children, right, that want to read these books. I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit more about your work.
Yeah, so I'm working on a new graphic novel, which unfortunately my publisher do not allow me to talk about it
No
yet.
problem. Secrets.
But one of those giant Chinese novel behind you is
Yes.
the graphic novel, middle grade friendly version of almost a direct translation with a little bit of my twist of one of the classic Big Four Chinese novel.
Oh, that is a great hint. Oh my goodness. So listeners, I named them all earlier. So now you can just guess. I mean, you had a 25% chance getting it right.
So
That
I'm
is so
super
exciting.
excited about that. And
Yes.
yeah, it's a book. It's a little bit unexpected. They actually asked me to pick a Chinese literature to. So
Yes.
I'm not expecting that from a publisher, and I'm super excited and can't wait to share that, because part of me, I'm really curious how it would respond, because is one of the big four classic novel. And we are talking about ancient classic, not modern classic. So
right.
it is period, 100% period, historically correct in that setting. And I would make the content suitable for middle grade. So I'm really curious how that will respond in our Asian American community, especially I really hope it will resonate in the Asian American community.
Yes.
And also so far, I don't think there's many contemporary interpretation of the big novel, the classic novel.
This is what I've been asking for. This is for me. I'm your reader.
But they don't have a direct translation. It's like they got modern twist from inspired by the big four,
right?
But they don't have an actual version that is a direct retelling of the exact novel. So I have to say I'm very curious. I really hope it will have a good response. I put a lot of my love in it, and I try to pack as much history through art and like words and costume. I try to pack as much as I can, and I really hope it would take off and I can make more of classic Chinese literature for American audience. That's my dream. But the first one is kind of like a testing ground. So the publisher is like, well, do one first. See how it responds. So if it responds good, I hope I can get more. If it doesn't respond well, it probably just stop from there. So
oh no. Well, anything I can do, because this is very selfish, and podcast listeners know I'm very selfish. I invite people that I want to talk to on the podcast. I don't, I take requests, but generally I just want to talk to all the people I find fascinating, and I learn so much through these conversations. So no, this is what I've been asking for. I'm like, really need a direct translation, because it is so hard to get through the text, because when things are translated, you miss so much. And my Chinese, I'm maybe a middle schooler, so this is perfect reading level for me. But like, you just lose a lot, right? You lose a lot in the language translation, because there's so many words in Chinese that there's no direct English word for it, right? Like even Sifu, right? Like you can't explain it. You have to use many words to explain what does that really mean. And people will go, oh, it's just a Kung Fu teacher. I'm like, it's so much more than that, right? If you know martial language or you understand the relationship, it's so much more, and you can't explain it to people, especially Americans. The concept is, it's not a coach, it's not a teacher, right? It's not even a parent. It's just like all those things, but it's so hard. And so what a challenge. I can't imagine, because I know what those big four texts are like, because I, in my day have tried. I'm going to read this and it's just like, okay, it never happens. But very exciting. And so I would love to probably have you back on when you can talk about it, so we can maybe take people through it. You had offered very, very kindly earlier to screen share and do, kind of a show and tell. And perhaps with that book, we can do that. I think that this would be great, because I want to learn, but I think that you have an audience. I know in the martial arts world, all of those big four are very important for us, right? There's so much philosophy in there. So I would love to have you back to specifically talk about that and promote that. But in the meantime,
that'd be great.
Yeah. In the meantime, listeners can, I'll link everything here, all your social media, but also your newsletter, so they can see all of these amazing books that you have. You even have one called The Rise and Falls of Jackie Chan. So I know you like martial arts. I can see there's so much on here, a lot of Kung Fu, like Lunar New Year, which is coming up. This is going to air in January. So yes, I think this is just, there's so much here. We Are the Change. We didn't really get to talk about that one, but I would love to hear a little bit about this book, which it looks like it has an ACLU kind of sticker on it. Would you like to share a little about that?
Yeah, that one is published by Chronicle. Actually, that one I did not involve in the story development. I'm one of the illustrator of. It's a collaborative book. It also, I believe, it also come out around that last administration. We all want to put more of different voice, positive voice, in the book world for children. So that one is a collective of many different quotes from many activists, thought leader, philosophers of different like many different famous quote, and then the publisher invite different illustrator to choose one of the quote and do an illustration of that quote that they choose.
Amazing. I know I need to get all your books because and also from an art standpoint, everything is just so gorgeous and endearing. Like Marshmallow and the Jordan just looks so endearing. So yeah, very exciting stuff. Is there anything else that I missed that we should make sure that listeners know to look out for? But I'm going to have you back talk about that secret graphic novel for sure.
Yeah, I would say sign up for my newsletter because my newsletter, I literally just rebrand the newsletter a couple of weeks ago. So what you got is the new one. And I'm hoping to do more story share, skill share on the newsletter. And definitely one of my goals, finger crossed, I want to share more of the different cultural research I do for different books. And the new one, I already in my mind have extensive Chinese history, mythology content that I will release later. So wow. I'm eager to share all those because I think it'll be really fun and just through storytelling and just from a different way introduce a bigger like Asian American and beyond and other general reader to learn more about Asian culture from a storytelling perspective. And I think that's I can't wait to share all those exciting stories.
Oh my goodness. Well, we are big fans over here. And me and my husband, when I say we, because we love reading. And I mean, even though they're for kids, I still find I always learn something, especially from kids' books, actually, because it's just such a beautiful way to tell stories through these pictures and being able to see things. And of course, as you can tell, I love graphic novels. So, so I am your demographic. I am a reader. I will start putting in some requests for you for the next big four, the one I want next. I'm just gonna have you do all the research and the hard stuff, and I get to just learn. So thank you for that, Alina. It was amazing to meet you. I am so glad that this project has brought us together, and this lineup of AAPI artists. I am beside myself. It is just like we've been saying, like the Avengers of AAPI artists have come together to make this coloring book, and I can't wait to share it with the world. And thank you so much for being a part of that. It's super meaningful to all of our community here. And like I said, this is really probably, even though it's Florida specific, it'll be a really well-received nationwide book. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's my honor to share with all your listener and reader as well.
All right. We'll have more of Alina Chau next time. Thank you. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram or Facebook.